Cuphead took my lunch money. It took my lunch money, and then it pushed my head into the dirt. My head was in that sand, and I was struggling to breathe. It started kicking me in the face. And just when I thought that I was most vulnerable, it put a finger in my ass. And I loved every second of it. This is a Cuphead review.
This match will get red hot. Now go!
The story in Cuphead is a simple one, told through still images with some text. You're Cuphead, and Mugman if you're co-oping. You gambled away your soul. However, you strike a deal with the devil, and he demands you go debt collect some other souls in order to spare your own. And that pretty much covers the story. Sure, there's an end, and some funny NPCs and stuff to help you remember there's an actual story here along the way, but it's all very inconsequential stuff. The game has a great sense of humor, but none of it really ties the main story together. Still, it's at its core a simple story for a simple game. Thankfully, the game really didn't need a story thanks to its biggest strength.
Good day for a swell battle. It's on!
The game looks and sounds absolutely amazing. Anyone who sees or hears Cuphead will immediately know what the developer of the game was shooting for, and hit right on the mark. The game lives and breathes that classic aesthetic of cartoons from yesteryear. Stages are a joy to gander at. Bosses are creative, funny, and complete with some catchy tunes. No boss looks the same, no stage feels like any other, and at the end of my journey, I came away remembering every boss, even if it's not by a name. It's a testament to the fact that the game doesn't have to look hyper-realistic to be beautiful. Cuphead's art, music, sound effects are all top-notch.
Good day for a swell battle. And begin!
With all of that said, the game's art style and sound doesn't mean anything if the game isn't fun to play. Thankfully, Cuphead is an absolute blast, even with its extreme difficulty, which I'll touch on in a second. The controls just work. I played through on the Xbox One, meaning I played on an Xbox One controller. Every death felt avoidable, every obstacle scalable, and every boss beatable. The controls help you feel empowered, and when you nail a parry, quickly duck a projectile, and hop over another one, you feel like a badass. With that said, Cuphead is difficult. While there's a simple difficulty on offer, you can't beat the game unless you tackle it on the regular setting. And let me tell you, this game is ruthless, offering gauntlets that will test your reflexes and gaming abilities, not to mention your patience. Thankfully, none of it ever felt impossible. The second fight usually goes better than the first, and if you're like me, awful. By the 30th fight, you should have the patterns pretty much down. Bosses are cheap, but not too cheap, always offering you ways to counter or dodge their brand of fighting. I do have to say though, that some bosses are harder thanks to random elements such as moving platforms or different forms or attacks that are harder to deal with than others. It's a nitpick for sure, but retrying a boss to get it to attack the way you want it to because you're going for an A plus or an S, it's a little cheap. The prime example of this being the second to last boss fight. I won't give spoilers, but after that ordeal, the final boss fight is a breeze. There are also a handful of run and gun stages. These stages don't have bosses in them, at least not the normal, atypical boss that you fight in other stages. They offer a reprieve from the normal boss fights. With that said, even the run and gun stages offer up their own brand of challenge. This game is absolutely no pushover, but I can't stress enough how good it felt to make it to the end. Not because I wanted the game to be over, but simply because I'd somehow managed to actually beat it. And that sense of accomplishment is something that's absent in a lot of games today. Cuphead is not for everybody. The difficulty will turn off a lot of gamers. But if you can persevere, or if you have a punching bag to unleash some rage on, it's a phenomenal game, and I'd recommend it to just about anybody. Some random elements to the bosses, some very cheap deaths, and a non-existent story aside, Cuphead is a must-own for any gamer looking for a stout challenge, or just an old-school side-scroller. Cuphead is only $20, yet it's probably the best game I've played thus far this year. It's not a perfect game, not by any means, but the flaws I did find were minuscule. And yeah, sure, it's really difficult, which I know is a turnoff to some gamers, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. With that said, it's difficulty that was done by design, and so therefore, I won't count it against the game. So with all of that said, what does Cuphead rank? Well, if I had to put a number on it, I would say it's an easy 9 out of 10. If you're wondering if you should buy Cuphead, give it a try. I absolutely recommend it. With all of that said, just remember, it's only a game. Deep breath in and out.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam.